Right? Because then you lose everything. This is Mary Collins from LifeX Media on Radio X, and I am back with Dr. Akawi, our specialist vet, who is helping us cover the situation with COVID-19 and the pandemic around the world. Dr. Akawi's practice is based in New York City. He is now on his own form of isolation or quarantine in Florida. Hello, Dr. Akawi. It's lovely to have you back on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad I can help. And we all need to stick together during this time to really encourage each other and help each other, because we are all in it together.
Yes. And we were speaking on the first part about how it really works, the actual statistics of it, not scaremongering or anything else, but the actual statistics of how this virus has been around in some shape or form or the other because of the what's it called? Zoonotic crossover, where
zoonosis means disease that transfers from animals to human.
Okay, so and this is now what we're now going to the second part of the podcast to talk about what is it that COVID does that's different than the flu.
Yes, exactly. We're going to talk about the pathology, why this is more serious than the flu. So, first of all, the virus is not alive, doesn't have metabolites, there's no metabolism, it's not a living organism. The virus have spikes and it travels on surfaces. We can see it with the naked eye. Now we know after a month of experience with this virus that it can transfer mostly with fomite. Fomite means inanimate surfaces like table and computer and cardboard boxes, plastic packages. Man, if you get any packages, don't open the packages. Put them in the garage for a day or two before you open those packages. In the air, it can last for 2-3 hours if somebody even was talking to you. An elevator. That's why it's so important. I understand we don't want to take masks from the healthcare, but as long we're doing our own mask, or it is important now that we know it stays in the air for 2 hours after an infected person stands in an elevator. So you don't need an actual face-to-face meeting with somebody else. But what happens once you do, we have something called the T-zone on our face. T-zone is the two eyes, the nose, and the mouth. Just imagine a T with a cross, like over your eyes. So you should avoid the T-zone. That's where the mask goes. So you can avoid.
Yeah, I mean, the minute they said don't touch your face, it's like I'm like a child. It was like touch, 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 touch. So what I've been doing is that I bring hand wash with me that has like 70% ethanol and tea tree or eucalyptus in it, and I've been sniffing. I don't care. I know this. I've been doing this for like 2 months. Everyone was like, "What are you doing?" I've literally been taking eucalyptus drops on a gauze and sniffing it because that's supposed to be antiviral, and I think it's supposed to rip apart things like this, so I hope.
Well,
so far,
the most important thing I can give people, let's say, once you get the virus, you touch your mouth or your nose, it goes to the pharyngeal tonsillar area, the throat. Okay, there's tonsils. Those are centers for the immune system. Now, before the virus attach and try to make a nosedive into the lungs, because that's what it likes. It has affinity to the lungs. So just simply by drinking a lot of warm fluids throughout the day, if you can flush, you will be able to flush the virus into your stomach, and then the virus is toast. Okay?
Right.
Just simply by drinking a lot of fluid.
Right.
You flushing it down, it's not going to really be able to attach.
Right. So so I have family members that use the neti pot, and I was like, "What is that?" And he said, my brother was like, "It's saline solution, pretty much. It's salt and water," and he just keeps running it through his nose. And as I said, I use the eucalyptus because I know that burns away certain things as well. And like I know my friends think I'm crazy, but I will take Vicks vapor rub or like Vaseline and eucalyptus, and I will seal my ears with it before I go out,
Yeah.
and I will put it up my nose. I will put it under my eyes. I'm not taking chances. I knew this months ago. So
Even just regular water. Obviously, I drink alkaline water, pH 10 or 9 or higher.
mhm.
But regular water will flush it. You just have to do it more frequently, every 30 minutes or an hour. Take a big gulp of water and just let that flush the virus. Because if it makes it down to the lungs, okay, it has affinity for two different cells. It's called pneumocytes. Okay, pneumocytes are the smallest cellular lung cell that is responsible for exchange of oxygen and expelling CO2. Okay,
Right.
there's two types of cells. One that does that. The other one, which the virus attacks, it is responsible for producing something called surfactant. Surfactant is the first enzyme inflate our lungs after we are born for our mother, because we didn't need lungs at the time.
Mhm.
Surfactant, just think about it. It's the enzyme that help inflate your alveoli, those little sacs
Mhm.
that need air exchange. Without surfactant, alveoli will collapse. Then you can't breathe. And this is why a lot of people say, "Oh, shortness of breath. Why do you get shortness of breath?" This is one of them. The enzyme that virus, what it does, there's receptors on those cells. The spikes on the virus fits perfectly in a receptor called ACE2 receptor, and it communicates with that particular cell, and it sends the messenger RNA of the virus to the ribosomes, and it starts cranking polyproteins. And basically, it's making copies of itself
Right.
using our machinery. Then it really send another simple stranded RNA message to make more messenger RNA. So basically, it's making all the parts of the virus
In
inside
your
of
body,
our air,
like
yeah,
like
alveoli.
Terminator. Oh.
Exactly. Literally, it's doing this. Now,
Yeah.
all this process takes about a week, and it's making more and more. And so if you get one virus particle in a week, you're going to have millions just sitting there using your own cells to make more of itself. The
So
process is divided into two parts. The first part, that the virus making it, this is important because we're gonna touch on that with the treatment.
mhm.
The first part, when it's making its parts, like the spikes and the nucleic enzymes and the capsid and the capsule of the virus itself, those are all proteins. That is using an enzyme called proteinases, our own enzyme. So it's using a proteinase to make proteins.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, the second part, where it's making its own messenger RNA, simple stranded RNA, because it's an RNA virus, that's where its really genetic code is. It uses another enzyme from us. It's called polymerase. Okay. Making copies of the
Nice.
genetic code of the virus. So we have
Right.
polymerase and we have protease. So first the virus attached to the cell and the
Mhm.
messenger or the receptor, and then it start, like you said, the Terminator movie. It's making its own
Soldiers.
soldiers. But really, most of the damage that people have, and this happens around day 10. You hear they say day 10. It's called the cytokine storm. You know what cytokine is, right? Cytokines are an inflammatory mediators our body produces when we have an invasion by a foreign entity, virus, bacteria, whatever. So in this instance, once we have a virus causing all this havoc, we send something called macrophages, which are really a big lymphocytes responsible to fight the virus.
Mhm.
And this macrophage produces three things. If you ever heard of something called interleukin 1, interleukin 6, and tumor necrosis factor, those are enzymes designed to destroy the virus. But it's not like discriminate destruction. It's going to just like light up fire in the
Everything.
pneumothites area, making the endothelial cells, which are the blood vessels around those cells of the lungs, they get permeable, very permeable. Then you get fluid coming inside of the cells that's supposed to have only air. So that kind of dilutes the surfactant. The surfactant's job is to decrease surface tension and keep those cells open. Now, all of a sudden, those cells collapse. And that's why people need ventilators.
Right.
Because you get fluid from the plasma, our own plasma cell, leaks into those cells. And of course, the macrophage, invite neutrophil, and neutrophil produces reactive oxygen species, and proteases try to kill. Maybe it will kill a few virus cells, but it's going to cause destruction to
Right.
the
So
lungs.
to put this into layman terms for the ultra over imaginative, imagine actually like Apocalypse Now, people, the movie, Imagine what an actual war in history and how it works, and the Trojan horse, which is you go in sneakily and you wait till everyone's asleep or drunk, and then you kill a few of the soldiers, dress up in their clothing, and start attacking them, and then they don't know who's who, and then they start attacking everyone. Literally, this virus may not be alive, but it's kind of sneaky. So we got to think of it seriously now, because if it takes you to sit down and watch a war movie and understand how this is our own body reacting to espionage, because that's what it is. It's like, or if you want to imagine how it spreads, think of pollen. You can see pollen, and it's always when you're wearing white that it decides to like land on you. It's on your car, it's on the rail when you're walking downstairs that is outside. It's like it covers everything and it just sits there. And this is what COVID-19 is. Not COVID-19, but I think COVID-19 is when it's the actual infection, right? There's a difference between the actual infection and the like HIV and AIDS. I heard
Oh
that.
yeah, because this is an RNA virus, and
Right.
this is the first battle that the virus presents. The next one, because of that, because you have all those cytokines producing havoc in the system, including the heart. Uh, Imagine the heart muscle, the permeability increase again, just like in the lungs, you get fluid gets into the cell. Then you have a reaction from our sympathetic system when you have low oxygen, because you will become hypoxemic because of that, which means low oxygen. The body tried to make up for it. First, it will increase respiration, and second, it will increase heart rate, trying to make up for the difference. But at the end, we're going to have damaged heart cells too, which will result in low blood pressure. Low blood pressure will result in hypovolemia, which will affect eventually sepsis and decrease perfusion to the liver and the kidney and the pancreas and the brain and all that stuff.
Right. Well, this is it. We're hearing a lot of people, and they're like, how is this the same thing when it starts off as a cough, but then we're hearing about like a lady dying right after giving birth, and she had sepsis, but it was COVID-19 that killed her. And they're like, well, how? Because it's her spleen, or her whatever. But is that because the body is in such a self-defense mode that it starts to shut down what it considers non-vital organs?
No.
So what happens?
Actually, it shuts down because of the interleukin 6 and interleukin 1 and tumor necrosis factor. Those are cytokines. It's okay to have a high mode where the body organizes itself and say, okay, let's run for our life, and when a lion is chasing you. But those when you have massive infection in the lungs like this, those cytokines because they cause permeability to bring more cells in, but in the process they also cause edema in those organs, edema and damage to the cells. So when they do this to the heart and you have damage to the heart muscle, the actual function of the heart, which is perfusion, will decrease. So you have now, first of all, you have decreased diffusion. Second, you already have hypoxemia because of those cells in the lungs are not bringing enough oxygen and they're retaining CO2. So you get metabolic acidosis. So literally, the blood that is going to organs, either not sending blood, enough blood because of the volume and the blood pressure, and whatever gets there doesn't have enough oxygen and cannot really clean up the CO2 there. That's why you get the organ failure. Then you get secondary infections, beyond creatinine go up in the kidneys, the liver function enzymes go up, and literally, and of course, during the first thing, the interleukin going to go to the brain, to the hypothalamus, and reset the temperature, increase, and then now the temperature is up to 102 or 103, which
so
fries enzymes and make the operation of the system not optimal. So now you have like a big part of the damage is our own cytokines. I mean, those are designed to really fight abbreviated quick infection and get over it. And like if you get stung by a bee or if you have a regular flu, but something like this, the virus is taken over and manipulating us. And in the process, our own defense mechanism is destroying us too, not intentionally, just because we can't distinguish between, I mean, you can't separate the virus from the pneumocytes. It's attached to it. So when you release reaction oxygen species and proteinases to kill the virus, you're going to kill a lot of healthy tissue. It's almost my description of chemotherapy. You design to kill cancer.
Yeah, it sounds like that. So we don't want to be all doom and gloom, but we do need to really point out how serious this is to people who think, well, that they're losing their livelihood. You know, I talked to a good friend and she was under the panic that, you know, if they close the schools, her child had been working so hard, and what about their education? And I said, listen, what about their life? You know, this is it. This is really what we have to start thinking about now. It's just, yes, we're losing money. Yes, we're feeling trapped. You know, yes, we're feeling isolated, but ultimately we're still alive. And from now, people need to start prioritizing. You know,
exactly.
And thinking also not only about themselves, because that's what we'll speak about in our third part, is this whole, but I'm healthy, I'm young, because what Dr. Akawi is now describing is that once you get this, it does damage. No matter how healthy you are, no matter how young you are, it has done the damage to your heart and possibly other organs. So that's part 2 with Dr. Akawi talking about COVID-19.
Let me, before we close this part, I just want to say that this scenario, we said, you're right, even some people recovered saying they have 15% destruction of their lung capacity, like a smoke or a while or something like that. But this scenario, we didn't even touch about risk to people that already compromised with cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer, and other diseases. You can imagine if those organs already compromised and this happened. This is why those are the people that are at risk of dying. Because if you have asthma to start with, and now this virus come and hijacks your pneumocytes, or if you have cardiovascular disease and now you have low blood pressure, low perfusion, you are at risk of death for sure.
Right. And autoimmune, and people don't even realize that autoimmune means like a lot of people. I don't know what percent in the world there is, but there is a large percent of people who something simple as is it Reynolds, which is where your fingers turn blue. you are also susceptible because that is an autoimmune disorder. So we're going to get on to that now in our third section of COVID-19. Thank you so much, Dr. Akawi. It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
Okay, so we just stop recording for a second.